Edison from Vertical Measures, and I'm here hosting VM's monthly webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Beyond Optimization, Elevating Your Content Through Google Authorship, and will be presented by our very own Director of Creative Services here at Vertical Measures, David Gould. David oversees written, visual, and video content production, as well as social media and promotion here at VM. He works with clients to develop compelling content that pulls together business goals with customer needs. His 15 years experience in writing, design, and web development have provided a perfect complement of skills for effective content marketing and strategy. We're excited to have him presenting with us today. But before we get started and I hand over the presentation to him, I just have a few things to note. Today's webinar will be available for download and for viewing by the latest on Monday afternoon, if not sooner, barring any technical difficulties. We'll also be happy to answer your questions. So if you take a peek at your webinar interface, you'll see a little question applet where you can send anything you'd like me to ask David at the end of his presentation. You can also ask questions via Twitter using the hashtag VMWebinar. Any questions we don't get to, we'll be sure to try and answer via email afterwards. If you're having any technical difficulties, please just attempt to reconnect. So with all my notes complete, I'll go ahead and hand it off to our presenter, David Gould.
Thanks, Quinn. Hi, everybody. As Quinn said, my name is David Gould. I'm the Creative Services Director here at Vertical Measures. I've been here about 3 years. And as she touched on, I oversee the content marketing and development team, handling content strategy, conception, and implementation for our clients. So today we're here to talk about Google Authorship and Google Rank and their importance in content marketing. But first, I wanted to take a moment to discuss the landscape into which this topic arrives. You know, starting in 2011 and really in 2012, you saw the emergence of content marketing as a formidable force in online marketing. It really took its place as a concept alongside more traditional SEO methods as a strategic way for businesses to be found, buy, engage with, and convert their audience. So, you know, the simple, produce valuable, optimized content and see material benefits to your campaign. But in my mind, 2013 is going to be the big show. Everyone's had a chance to sort of acclimate to the content marketing concept. Online publishers are aware of the considerations, and it becomes not a question of if content marketing is relevant, but rather how to approach it to the best effect. As Joe Polizzi of Content Marketing Institute likes to say, if you're not content marketing, you're not marketing. So Google has long understood the importance of online social engagement as a measure of content quality. But historically, they've had to incorporate that from the outside looking in, so getting secondhand data from sources like Facebook and Twitter. But in 2011, as we know, in steps Google+. And when it first launched, it sort of suffered the slings and arrows of outrageous comparisons to Facebook and similar social media platforms. But Google+ is, I think by design, really more than a social network. It's not where you post random thoughts about your lunch. It's a social layer that really permeates all of Google's products and sort of transcends them and nets them all together. And its function is really as a content sharing and approval engine for its users and for Google. So, you know, its primary purpose in my mind is to identify and validate content in the context of relevant audiences, and more importantly, to identify whose voices matter, whose voices stand out on a given subject, and to see them as authorities in the Google universe for that subject. So I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. But for now, you know, we arrive on Google Authorship. Google Search's stated goal is to provide the most relevant search results to its users. And while still important, certain technical on-site configurations are of decreasing importance to it. Take meta keywords, for example, which Google now simply ignores as a ranking factor. Google cares less and less if it walks like a duck or talks like a duck. What Google cares increasingly about is if, presented as a search result, how many people +1 it as a duck. Users matter, and Google understands this, and so it's looking to users to sort of drive relevance and identify, what's good quality content. And so from this, Google authorship has emerged. Google authorship is, simply put, Google's process of tying content to a verified author wherever it resides. If you're a terrible author putting out terrible, unwanted content, then it's probably not going to have much benefit for you. If you're putting out spam, then it probably will actually hurt you to try to net that together under Google authorship. But if you're putting out solid content or willing to work towards that goal, then there's a really strong opportunity out there for you. For those who may be newer to the concept, it's fairly simple. Authors link content pieces to the Google Plus profile as a way of associating them with their larger body of work. Authors who consistently produce quality content can enjoy recognition for that work, even if it's across multiple publication channels. So, for example, say you have a writer who has a personal blog, a company blog that they contribute to, like I do, and they occasionally do guest posts on other companies or brands' websites. Previously, all those posts would only contribute to the authority of the site that the content resided on. But with Google authorship, all of those posts can now be associated with a roaming author profile. And what this means is that when looking at the value of a piece of content, Google can look beyond just that page and beyond even that website and consider the author's entire body of work across multiple websites to determine how relevant and credible it is. And similarly, websites that house content can establish themselves as publishers by linking their website to a Google Plus brand page. And in doing so, they can be building on familiar and still important, SEO metrics like backlinks and social shares, but then also tap into the authority of their writers. So in that way, the author-publisher relationship is symbiotic. The more that content producers deliver great content, the more they establish themselves as a valuable author in Google's eyes. But likewise, the more valuable websites authors are, the more it's seen as a valuable publisher. So strong verified authors can benefit less established websites by bringing, that authority with them. And just as emerging authors can benefit from being published on an authoritative website. So right now, this sort of exchange, this credibility dynamic is in its early stages with Google, but it's the basis for the concept known as AuthorRank. And AuthorRank is a term that was quoted by Matt Cutts. For those of you who don't know, he's Google's point person and the head of their web search product. And just like Google's established PageRank as a metric to identify the authority of a website or website page, AuthorRank is being developed as a way to gauge the credibility of a given content producer. So when Google adopted authorship markup few years ago now, and I'll discuss that in a minute, they say that their goal was ultimately to utilize it as a ranking factor. So while I think it would be a gradual evolution to that point, Google likes to move in baby steps very tentatively. It's clear it's not a matter of if, but when. And while it may not be a standalone ranking factor yet, there are a number of benefits that can still be harnessed today as you build your authority and work towards that goal. Probably the most visible benefit to established authorship is the author-rich snippet. And you've probably seen some of these. There's a lot of flavors of rich snippet. There's ones for recipes, there's one for news articles, there's one for a lot of different types of content, specialized content. One of the newer ones is the author-rich snippet. The specialized search result adds author information to the more vanilla, title, URL description you normally see. So currently, author-rich snippets show the author's profile name, their photo, and the number of Google circles they're in. And if you click on their name in that little snippet, it actually will take you to their Google Plus profile page. So, there's a lot of extra information in there that's really, really helpful. But, the visibility is key. When a search result comes up and you get a wall of text, users' eyes are naturally going to gravitate to the visually distinct snippet. So your content may rank lower on the search results page, but that can be offset if it's, the standout result. I've put up an example here of analytics flow visualization, which can be kind of a dry subject, but you can see the first few results are very authoritative. They're from Google, but your eye instantly goes to Joe Christopher and Dorcas Alexander's posts because we recognize that those are their author. And that's the other aspect, which is trust. We've all done searches where we've clicked through the top few rankings and not gotten what we're looking for. And for all of Google's best efforts, there's still a lot of not great content out there. So it's appealing to searchers to be able to zero in on a result they know is tied to a real individual and see that they've been given at least some level of endorsement by other individuals. Like you can see right there in their, you can see how many circles they've been added to on Google+. So you can see that there's someone on the other side of that profile who's actively engaging in, with an audience. So that gives a level of credibility there. And verified ownership of content is another great reason to adopt Google authorship. So if a shady website out there, and there's plenty of them, if they decide to scrape your content or copy your work, then Google has a really clear way of seeing you as a legitimate author of that content, and the other entity is not likely to get an SEO benefit from that, and very well may get penalized for duplicate content for plagiarizing from a verified author. And this next one is a newer benefit to authorship, and it's what I call engagement bonus links. This is a perk that authors who produce quality content that audiences actually consume can benefit from. So on the top there, say you see that result at one of my posts in Google search results and you click through to it. If you quickly go back in your browser because it wasn't what you're looking for, Google sees this and recognizes that probably wasn't the kind of content you were after. But if you were to stay on my content page for a sufficient period of time and then click back in your browser, Google assumes you've actually been reading my content. So the post probably had some merit. So now when you return to the search result page, my original post result will be expanded to show other posts by me, and you can see them down there in the lower half. This recommendation feature, along the lines if you like that post, you may also enjoy these posts, is a great way to keep readers in your content and potentially starting to follow you, or they're more likely to get the result they want from one of your pieces of content than moving further down the line in a search result. So as for what consists of a sufficient time for user engagement, that's not, it varies a little bit. There's no clear specified amount by Google. They like to play things close to the vest. But based on testing and feedback, 2 to 3 minutes seems to be the common threshold. Sooner than that, and they'll just see the same result. But over that point, they come back and you get the expanded results. So that's a really great feature. But because Google likes to play things close to the vest, because they're taking things in baby steps as Google's want to do, People may ask, isn't the importance of Google authorship and AuthorRank just speculation? And I say no. Google has been telegraphing their intent with this. I think the movement forward with Google Plus alone was a very strong indication, of their intent to really back this as a strong signal for quality content. But just 2 days ago, Eric Schmidt, the Google chairman, dropped this gift on my lap from a forthcoming book of his, and as you can see, it says, within search results, information tied to verifying online profiles will be ranked higher than content without such verification, which will result in most users naturally clicking on the top verified result. The true cost of remaining anonymous, then, might be irrelevant. So it's clear as day that Eric Schmidt, who does like to talk, that Google's weight is behind this, and that they're serious about using this as a way of establishing the merits and the credibility of content going forward. So that's why it's incredibly crucial to get in early before it becomes, the clearer it becomes, I think the more competitive it's going to be. So it's great to get a jump on it now and enjoy the benefits that are there right now, like I said. So and moving forward, now that we've covered some of the benefits and sort of the future of where we're going with authorship and AuthorRank, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to implement it. There's a few steps to this, so I'm going to cover it on sort of a top level, but when we post the webinar video, I'll go ahead and add some supplemental links as well, so that you can kind of go back and go through this at your own pace, because I don't want you to have to try to furiously scribble down some of these coding points. So the first step, if it's necessary, is to set up the publisher. This may already be done if you own a website that puts out content, or if you write for a site, be it a company or brand or just a personal blog. Excuse me. They may have already established themselves as a publisher, but if they haven't, or if you haven't, then it's a really important step to do that, because you need to tie your authorship account with verified publisher. So real quickly, the way that they do that is, one, they have to have a Google Plus brand page. And so if you go to Google Plus, and you'll see the URL at the top, and it'll have that very unhelpful long string of numbers. That's going to be their publisher ID. All they have to do is link to their Google Plus profile somewhere on their homepage, along the lines of what I put there, but obviously replacing the numbers in red with the company's own ID number. And then once they've done that, or once you've done that, then from the Google Plus brand page, all you need to do is edit the brand profile, and down at the bottom it says website. You just put the URL of that content website, and the verification is complete. One of the things you'll see over the next few slides is Google's methodology is always going to be like a two-way verification between either a website, a piece of content, author, and Google Plus profile. They're always pulling everything back to Google Plus as the hub for verification and tying everything together. And so as far as setting up authorship, for the content writers, there's a few different approaches, and I'll kind of break them down here. The general way is that you use the markup rel equals author. So if you have a page of content, you can put it on the screen there as author content. Say it's a blog post, an article, what have you. Once, as an author, you've written that, you add a link using rel equals author, and I'll break that down in a second for you. And that points back to your author profile. And it needs to be your individual author profile, not a company page, or that has to be, you as an author. And then from the author profile, again, the two-way verification, that points back to the content website, not necessarily that page, but just the root domain. And you list that as a contributor to, and I'll show you how that works here. So for that first part, going from the content page back to your Google Plus profile, all you need to do is add a link similar to what we did with the that we covered with the publisher link that links to your author Google Plus profile page. And there's a few ways to do it, and I've kind of broken them out here. The original way that they did it was just having a link to the profile. I've used mine here. And you can see that long string of numbers. Obviously, that would be replaced by the author's, their individual number. And then use that rel equals author attribute in the link. And what that does is says at the other end of this link is the author for the piece of content that you're on right now. So for everything that I write, you know, I'd have that link, rel equals author, and then my name. But that was tough to implement for a lot of writers and even some webmasters because a lot of CMSs like WordPress and stuff didn't allow you to add those kind of tags, or they'd strip them out. So they created pretty quickly thereafter sort of this backup method where instead of using the rel equals author, you just add that / rel equals author to the link. And so it just makes it part of the link URL. And in that way, it achieves the same thing, but it's far easier to implement. There's actually a third method that I'm not going to cover, mostly because it's very specialized, and I don't recommend it even in those cases. But there's options for using a verified email. If you, for example, are publishing to Wire.com and you've got a Wire.com email address, you can use that method for verification. But because it's not scalable and it's limited solely to that website, I don't recommend it even if you are fortunate enough to work at Wire.com. Now, there's an alternate way with a little interim step here for people who don't have the means to create that rel equals author link on every piece of content that they do. You know, there's a lot of sites set up where, you know, an author will produce content and they only get a little byline. And that byline links to a standalone author bio page. So they don't have the means to add that link. So in that case, what you can do is, starting on the author content page, that byline link, just need to add the attribute rel equals me, so that what that does is that when you're going from the author content piece to the author's bio, that's telling Google at the other end of this link is me, is an author. And then, so all the content pieces will point to that unified author bio. And then within the author bio, where you may have more flexibility, then you can add the rel equals author link back to your author profile, and then again back to, as a contributor to, back to the content website. So kind of try to give you a brass tacks example. Here is my profile. This is the bio that appears at the bottom of all the content pieces that I write. And where the arrow's pointing, where it says David Gould, that code up above, that's the code for that link. It's a link to my Google Plus profile with the / rel equals author, and then my name. And I add a little plus so people understand it's a Google Plus profile. But you know, we've got a little author bio plugin so that just gets dropped in at the bottom of every post that I write. So every piece of content directly links to my Google Plus profile. And then once I've done that, the second step would be to complete that loop, that two-way verification. So I would go into my Google Plus profile and edit it. At the bottom of the options, there's a contributed to section. All you have to do is add a custom link and enter the information for the website that you're contributing to. So in this case, it's vertical measures. So I'd put the label vertical measures, the URL, you know, www.verticalmeasures.com. just needs to be to the root domain. It doesn't have to go to a specific content page. And then save. And so now that two-way verification is complete. You've got the content site pointing to me as an author, and me as an author pointing back to that site saying, yes, I publish with them. And that two-way verification is critical because it gives assurance that people aren't being attributed to authors as authors for content they didn't write, and likewise, people can't say that they're being published for a piece of content if that doesn't point to them as an author. So once you've just taken those two steps, that's it. You're now an official author, and so you can start enjoying the benefits, of authorship as those accumulate. It'll take a little bit of time to kind of get that as you produce more pieces of content, and particularly as those pieces of content start to get traction and engagement. But that first step is done, and the technical requirements are met. So you just need to focus on producing great content from there. So I know we're getting close on time, so I'm going to kind of quickly go over some of the tips and approaches that you can take to really get the most out of the Google authorship. For authors, for content producers, first thing is to make sure that your Google author profile has a headshot. If it's not a headshot, Google won't give you that nice rich snippet. It'll have facial recognition technology, so if you want to put up your little personal brand logo or something like that, they'll recognize that. So it's got to make sure that it's a picture of you, so everyone knows who you are. And another thing is if you're just setting up authorship, Google Plus authorship right now, is to make sure that if you don't have, like for example, a plugin where it creates, links across all the content that you've written, or if you've put together, if you've contributed to other sites, is making sure that you're taking the time to go back and to get verified authorship for those past content pieces. Moving forward, it's always going to be important, but you also want to enjoy the benefits of the content that you've written in the past, particularly if it's over a period of time, if it's accumulated authority in Google's eyes, if it's already enjoyed, some social sharing, then that's a good way to get an early boost for your author rank. Is establishing yourself as an existing author with a verifiable, body of work. And the really big thing, and I think this is a step that a lot of people fail to kind of follow up on, is being active on Google+. Setting up the authorship and tying it all together with the Google Plus profile is key to keeping all those content pieces, tied together. But Google also is looking at your activity at the other end of that, at that Google profile. So if you are active on Google Plus, if you're sharing your content on Google Plus, which is very important, and that's getting +1s in comments, and that's basically a second publication avenue for your content, and another way for Google to get a sense of the audience's reaction. So if you're getting +1s on Google+, that's a great sign to Google, wherever, even if your content is still living on the content website. So be sure that you're sharing your content, and in particular, try to find relevant people in your industry or whatever your interest you're writing about. Find people who are leaders in those groups or standouts, and engage them. Get them in your circles, and if possible, try to get added in circles with them, and also participate in relevant communities. Google Plus recently rolled out communities for special interests and areas and such. And so if you're active on Google Plus, and like for example, if you write about social media, and that's good, but if also on the Google Plus side of things you're active, you're getting circled alongside other people who are authoritative social media writers, if you're involved in social media related communities and a lot of discussions about social media, then that's another great signal to Google that you are a worthwhile, credible author about, in this case, social media. And if you're a publisher, a couple things to keep in mind is, I mean, first of all, one is weighing the idea of sort of white labeling or what I call company authorship versus having individual contributors. A lot of companies like to provide a unified face for their content. A lot of times they'll put it, if there's a head of a company, the content will be published under his name regardless, even if it's someone in the staff is writing it or for her. So there's a benefit there as far as building up that profile. But one thing to weigh is the potential to develop a stable of verified authors. So if you have 3 or 4 people who write, for your blog, rather than put it under a single entity, recognize and give visibility to those contributors. So as they continue to write for your company, they're all separately, building authorship and AuthorRank. And even if they move on from your company, if they continue to write and they become, their AuthorRank continues to grow, then the content that you have, which is still associated with them, continues to enjoy the benefits of that. And another thing too is, consider Google Plus authorship, potential in relevant hiring situations. So if you bring someone onto your content team, have they established Google Plus authorship? Or are they bringing with them, some online credibility that you can instantly leverage, as they write? And along the lines of what we've done with vertical measures, I strongly recommend using an author bio plugin if you're using a CMS that allows that. It makes it really, really easy to implement the authorship code. It makes it a snap, and it makes it consistent, which is key, and minimizes the time that you have to spend on the technical side of things. So with that, I'm going to open it up, hand it back to Quinn to see if we have any questions that we could speak to.
Yeah, we definitely have some questions. Thanks for breaking that down, too. I know we've talked to a lot of industry experts here at Vertical Measures lately, and I know how important Google authorship is going to be this year. So I'm glad we had a step-by-step process just now from you. We do have a bunch of questions. You just did speak to it about company authorship versus individual authorship. And I did get quite a few kind of asking, do I link to my brand page or do I link to my personal page? And is that even a choice I have? Should I just link to my individual page or should I do both? So if you can just speak to that a little bit.
Sure. If you're an author, authors are individuals. Publishers are brands. And that's across the board. So if you, even if you are the face of your business, as an author, your author link needs to point to your individual Google Plus profile page, not a brand page. Okay. And if you're a brand like Vertical Measures, we would point to a brand page and to establish ourselves as a publisher.
I see. And then you just, an individual post, you would have our individual authors connected to their pages.
Exactly.
Okay. I think the other question I've been seeing, too, is that sometimes there's a bizarre behavior with the search results. So some people have said, I know I'm verified, I've got everything set up, but things don't always show up with my photo. Or, one time it will show up and then one time it won't. Do you have any insight into that?
There's a couple things that could be at play. One thing to keep in mind, too, is that if you're signed in, you usually won't see your own rich snippets. Like if I'm signed in as myself on Google and I Google something that I know that I will rank for, I typically won't see my rich snippet. So it's not that it's not there, but Google's like, we know who you are. You don't need to see a picture of yourself. So one thing is to double check is, one, make sure you're not signed out. And two, sometimes it's just, it's not always going to show. Even if you're a verified author, it doesn't ever guarantee that you're going to get that rich snippet next to content, even if it does rank. And that's part of Google's algorithm. It's not just that you're a verified author, but it's, what is your author rank strength? What do you, what are you speaking to? So, I mean, if I do, 100 pages, 100 posts about social media, and then I put up a muffin recipe, that muffin recipe may not be, a rich snippet because it doesn't really speak to what Google has established I'm a credible author on. And sometimes, especially if you're newer, sometimes it just takes a bit of time to kind of build up that acumen. You know, Google's being very cautious about how quickly they open the floodgates, and making sure that the people who are enjoying the benefits of authorship are ones who really are producing quality content and consistently.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay, well, another thing I've been noticing with the questions is just connecting, say, a domain to your authorship, how you set up, you set up vertical measures is the domain that's connected to your authorship post. Do you connect it to the blog URL or to the site root domain? A couple of people have asked that.
It's to the root domain. If the only exception would be if it resides on a subdomain. And I can break this out a little bit more when we post the video tomorrow. But if, for example, like our blog is verticalmeasures.com/blog, but when I point to contributor 2 on my profile, I just point to verticalmeasures.com. If, for example, though, that our blog resided on blog.verticalmeasures.com, I'll have to check, but I believe you need to link to blog.verticalmeasures.com. So if it's on a different subdomain like that, I think you need to link to the subdomain itself, and I'll double check that. But generally, you just point it to the root domain, and it then knows within this website is content. So that way, if you post to a blog, then you also post a FAQ or a resource article in a different part of the site. You don't have to try to recontribute, reset that up every single time.
Okay, I see. I think we have 2 more quick questions. One is, let me see here. What do you recommend is the best author bio plugin? You've mentioned having that at the bottom of your blog and easily putting a link in. What do you think is the best one to use?
There's a few. I don't recall the name of the one that we use. We're WordPress based, and there's a few, but I can look that up and I can be sure to add that in the summary if we can follow up at that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure to include that. And I think just the last question, we do have some people that are, beginners to this, still kind of new to Google+, and they're just wondering kind of where do they start? What's the first step? Do they just need to set up their authorship and then add a link, or what do you think is the first step that would just break it down for someone who's totally new to this?
Yeah, the first thing is find out where your content's going to live. If you've got your own website, that's obviously pretty easy. If you're working with a company or a different brand in their website, just making sure that you get a profile set up. And usually it's easy if you do it in the context of your first piece of content. Like here's the blog that I've written, and in the process of doing this, here's my bio and here's the URL. But yeah, so if you haven't set up a Google Plus profile for yourself, obviously that's first. But then figure out where your content's going to live. Get that link on that site, pointing back to your Google Plus profile, and then point it back with a contributor to. It's really those 4 key steps, because then anything you do after that, it's just producing the content. You don't have to worry about reconfiguring it every time or whatever. So, I think to me that's actually the easiest part, is the coming up with the quality content that's tougher. But yeah, those would probably be the 4 initial steps.
Okay, great. Well, I hope that helps all you out who are new, and we've covered some things for people who have been implementing authorship for a while and can start seeing more benefits from it. I think that's all the time we have for questions, but I want to thank you, David. Great presentation. Thanks for sharing all of your insight with us. We're going to have a new webinar coming up in March, on March 14th. It's at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. It will be with Art Enke. He's new to Vertical Measures, and he's our Director of SEO Services. And the title will be Prepare for Panda 2013, How to Destroy All Your Duplicate Content. He'll kind of be talking about the different benefits of getting rid of dupe content, analyzing what you can use, what tools, how to fix it, and also how to maintain your duplicate-free site. Registration is already open for that over on our website at verticalmeasures.com/webinar. Again, I'm Quinn, and from all of us at Vertical Measures, thank you for your time and have a great day.